Welcome to Post Games, a podcast about how and why we love this stuff. Thank you so much for being here. I am your host, Chris Plant. Let's get right to it. Here's what you need to know. In video games, there are 2 awards that matter more than all of the rest. You are probably already familiar with one of them. Every December, Jeff Keighley, the industry's greatest hype man, he hosts the Video Game Awards. And it's like the Oscars, but the Oscars in the 1940s when Hollywood was still trying to justify itself as an art form and was like really self-conscious. Anyway, historically, the game that wins the top prize, the game of the year, is humongous. These games, they get reviewed on dozens of websites and they get streamed by thousands of people on Twitch. Of the 11 winners, 10 were part of popular franchises already, and they have big marketing budgets. All of which is to say, the Game Awards Game of the Year celebrates creators with years, even decades of continued success. But what about the up-and-comers? What about the underground? What about the next big thing? That is the topic of today's show. A few months after the Game Awards, in an overstuffed, and if I'm being honest, quite stinky convention center hall in downtown San Francisco, the Independent Games Festival awards smaller teams, often very early in their creative journey. The IGF Grand Prize is, in my humble opinion, the most exciting award in video games, like by far. And though you might not have heard of it, you've certainly heard of its winners. Papers, Please, Fez, Minecraft. The IGF Grand Prize has been a tastemaker for over 25 years. Grand Prize recipients have become millionaires, and in the case of Notch, for better or worse, a billionaire. But, forget the money. These games, they appear in museums. They matter as art, as culture. They are like compasses to the fucking future. They're amazing. At this year's IGF, the award went to Consume Me, co-created by the immensely talented designers Jenny Jiao Hsia and AP Thomson. I was curious about what would happen next for Jenny, AP, and their team after receiving this career-defining award, and I thought you might be too. So, this week, for the first episode of Post Games, you won the biggest award in indie games. Now what? Act 1, the history of indie games and its biggest award. Act 2, an interview with the latest IGF Grand Prize winners about how post-award life changes and, in some ways, stays the same. And Act 3 will end the show with the news of the week, the real weirdo sicko gamer shit. I'm going to let you in on a secret. We're going to be talking about some Japanese to English localized kind of classic. Forgotten games haven't been played by pretty much anybody in the English-speaking world forever. And now you can play them. But you're going to have to make it through the rest of the episode, okay? I did a lot of work, and I want you to hear it. Plus, for the Patreon subscribers, I've got a bonus interview, the story of the high school kids who won the first ever IGF Grand Prize way back in 1999. One of the game's creators actually hopped on a call and shared what became of the team and their lost game. And I think you'll find it quite interesting. But before we can do any of that, we've got a commercial break. See you on the other side. One day, this might actually be a commercial break, but for now, it's just a chance for me to sell you the best product of all, this podcast. Post Games is an independent, listener-supported podcast, so if you enjoy the show and you want to keep it going, please consider subscribing at Patreon. Don't do it solely out of the goodness of your own heart. You deserve better. Do it because you get cool stuff. Patreon subscribers get access to episodes Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, perfect for kicking off your weekend. They get a bonus act in every episode, and they get monthly entries in my year-long series, Video Game Journalism 101. That's right, it's an adaptation of my NYU course on the who, what, when, where, why, and how of writing on video games. It is the cheapest college-like course that you will ever take. $5 a month. What a steal. Man, the universities, they just can't compete with this shit. Listening, subscribing, sharing with friends, that's what it's all about. Well, and the Patreon stuff helps too. Back to the show. Act 1, the history of indie games and its biggest award. Look, I want to tell you the history of modern indie games and the Independent Games Festival, and I will, I promise. But first, we have to talk about everyone's favorite financial process. That's right, it's distribution time, baby! You're excited. Of course you are, because we don't have all of our favorite indie games, including the IGF Grand Prize winners, if not for the distribution model of the past being blown up into itty-bitty bits and rebuilt. From the 1970s to the early 2000s, video games, like pretty much all other retail products, relied on a complex, interlinking distribution system, from the creation of the game cartridge or disc, to the boxing, to the various segments of shipping, to being placed manually onto the shelves of a brick-and-mortar shop. Each of those steps required upfront money and hard-won business partnerships. So, if you wanted to get a game on a shelf, you needed a publisher to make it happen, and to get a publisher, you had to create something the publisher felt comfortable betting on. All of that changed as distribution evolved over the past 25 years or so, and the IGF Grand Prize winners perfectly reflect that shift. What I'm saying is, I sort of duped you. This is a segment on the history of indie games and its biggest award, and also the distribution model that made them both possible. Let us start in the primordial period. In the late 1990s, independent game creation was, with some famous exceptions, a hobby rather than a self-sustaining business. Hand-spun games would be hosted as free downloads on forums or traded at traveling computer shows on floppy disks and burnt CDs. And then, in the early aughts, ubiquitous online payment systems, PayPal, made it possible for people to easily and safely buy things online. Plus, more and more people have access to large hard drives and high-speed internet. I mean, we're talking 128K. A tiny number of developers had been selling games online at this point, but this new market cracked the door open just a little bit further. A new class of indie developers stepped in. Their games, built for Windows and sold online, were some of the earliest indie classics. In 2004, the IGF Grand Prize Award went to Gish by Edmund McMillan, Alex Austin, and Josiah Pisciata. 6 years later, McMillan would release Super Meat Boy and become one of indie game development's first millionaires, a story chronicled famously or infamously in Indie Game the Movie. In 2007, Aquaria marked the arrival of Derek Yu, the creator of Spelunky, the greatest game of all time, and the late Alec Holoka, who would co-create Night in the Woods, itself a Seamus McNally winner in 2018. Around this same time, like evolutionary sparks firing in the darkness, digital stores began to appear across the internet. By the mid-2000s, games could be downloaded through Steam or direct-to-drive on PC, followed by the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live on console. Competitors like GOG, itch.io, and Humble would follow. But at first, these online marketplaces focused on games from established publishers, which brings us to a turning point. The App Store era. In 2008, the iOS App Store busted the dam. Developers had a low-cost, low-risk way to reach players so long as they didn't make adult content or talk about governments. And everyone with a smartphone could become a potential customer, massively multiplying the number of players in the world. To compete with the mobile boom, digital storefronts on PC and console further relaxed their own policies, allowing more and more indie developers to sell their games. In this era, IGF-winning games weren't just launch pads for future success, but proven hits unto themselves. If you're an elder millennial, you probably remember some of them. 2006, Darwinia. 2008, Crayon Physics Deluxe. 2010, Monaco. You definitely know the next two, Fez and Minecraft. The App Store would eventually flood the market with just total and utter slop. And many years later, so too would the console and PC storefronts. You've been on the Nintendo Switch store recently, you know what I mean. But this hasn't happened yet. Ironically, this era around 2008 to 2013 was the peak of indie gaming monoculture. Video game distribution was open enough for a select few games to be distributed online each year. But making a game was still pretty complicated, and many indie developers still needed a mix of financial investment, personal savings, and experience making games either in the traditional system or with other experienced creators. It's here, in this moment, that independent game development, a style of production, became indie games, a genre of marketing. And now, y'all, now we're in the full kitchen sink zone. In the coming years, the mid-2010s, the remaining barriers in distribution fall just completely, and game development itself becomes streamlined and simplified. Major engines are suddenly free to try and use and even make some money off of. YouTubers are publishing tutorials. GitHub offers mountains of code, and you can buy assets for cheap. Suddenly, anybody could sell and make a game. Truly anybody. In the mid-2010s, the IGF had 10,000 entrants a year. That's 10 times the number of games submitted in 1999. This could have been a turning point where the Independent Games Festival begins to award the most widely appealing entry. And that's not what happens. If anything, the opposite. In 2013, the award goes to Cart Life, an adventure game by Richard Hoffmeyer, in which the adventure is making enough money to pay rent while balancing your life as a street vendor with a very complicated domestic situation. In 2014, the judges awarded the grand prize to Papers, Please by the indie developers Lucas Pope and Keiko Ishizaka. Their story represents a shift of what making games for a living could or should be. Pope had left his job at Uncharted developer Naughty Dog in 2010 so he and his wife could move to Japan to be closer to family. There, they began work on smaller games like the criminally underappreciated iOS masterpiece Hellsing's Fire. I'll link it in the show notes. Living as an expat, Pope conceived of a game about immigration and passports, and the result? A game in which players manage the passport stations of a fictional totalitarian state modeled on the Eastern Bloc of the 1980s. Mainstream, wide appeal, this is not. Or at least you would think it's not, and then it ended up selling like hotcakes. Anyway, these two games, Cart Life and Papers, Please, they reset expectations for the award post-Minecraft era. In the years following, judges committed to giving the award to indie games that, though some found financial success, they privileged creativity over commercial viability. Outer Wilds won in 2015, a visually humble thesis project for its director's master's degree at USC. It would only later be reimagined as the game that would win Game of the Year awards in 2019. Everyone could make games at any point in their career, and the IGF winners promoted that idea, which brings us to, for lack of a better name, the modern era. In 2020, A Short Hike took the prize. The kid-friendly, low-poly exploration of a cozy island was widely distributed via itch.io. A Short Hike, for me, feels like a full-circle moment. This zen, small game made with love and little commercial interest echoes the games of the early IGFs. Its rise on itch.io reminds me, honestly, of trading discs at computer shows. I can't believe I mentioned them twice in the first episode. What I find so useful about the IGF Grand Prize moving forward is its consistent ability to capture the dominant culture of independent gaming at any given moment. Of what makes something indie. To put it another way, to understand what is popular, play the Game Awards Game of the Year. To understand the art form, play the IGF Seamus McNally Grand Prize. So, what is the awards role literally today? Does winning still matter? How much does it help? Why do thousands of developers still chase this dream? And what does it mean in 2025 to make it? Next, a break, and then my conversation with the most recent winners of the IGF Grand Prize. Hey, what up? This should be a commercial break. I obviously don't have any commercials. Instead of an ad this week, I thought maybe one more story. It's a small one. It's also about the IGF Grand Prize. In magazine speak, we would probably call this a sidebar or something. But it's an important little detail, and I don't think I could talk about IGF without mentioning it. The IGF Grand Prize is actually shorthand. The full name of the most prestigious award in independent video games is the Independent Game Festival's Seamus McNally Grand Prize. Now, Seamus McNally does not have the same recognition as Shigeru Miyamoto, Will Wright, or Amy Hennig, so we're going to take a pretty big chunk of our time to fix that, or at least to improve upon it. In 1997, an 18-year-old named Seamus McNally received a diagnosis of Hodgkin's lymphoma. It did not stop this teenager from forming a video game studio, and to form it without cash or connections. Seamus took the family band approach. He would serve effectively as founder and lead programmer of Longbow Digital Arts, his father, Jim McNally, as the game designer, his mother, Wendy McNally, as the lead artist, and his brother, Philippe McNally, he would handle the 3D art. The family operated with purpose and obviously urgency, producing 3 games in as many years, and it was the third game, Trademarks, that the family would end up submitting to the 2nd annual Independent Games Festival. Now, the previous year, the first IGF, 1,000 game creators had submitted their work, and the competition was expected to be even tougher at the second. But Trademarks had all the hallmarks of a 1990s hit. Picture this: tanks, drifting, through deserts at jet fighter speeds, launching off dunes like they are ski jumps, artillery. It is terraforming the world, carving holes into the earth where enemies once stood. The technical craftsmanship alone elevated the McNally's game above the countless other action games of the moment, attracting attention, amongst hobbyists, sure, but also professional game makers, including John Carmack, then best known as the co-creator of Doom. In March 2000, the IGF awarded its second grand prize ever to Trademarks. The McNally family was actually in attendance. They took to the stage with Seamus attending on a motorized scooter. In photos, the young designer he's in great spirits. He's surrounded by family and friends. He has achieved this incredible thing. And then a week later, Seamus passed away. In the following days, developers gathered on an IRC server for an online memorial, picture kind of like an ancient chat room, and other developers posted longer condolences to forums, including a note from John Carmack. I'm going to take a moment to read it to you. Over email about finishing the technology in Trademarks, Seamus once said, "I hope I can make it." Not, quote, be a huge success or, quote, beat the competition, just make it. That is a yardstick to measure oneself by. It is all too easy to lose your focus or give up with just the ordinary distractions and disappointments that life brings. This wasn't ordinary. Seamus had cancer. Whatever problems you may be dealing with in your life, they pale before having problems drawing your next breath. He made it. That very same year, the IGF named the grand prize in tribute to McNally. And so the award has been the Independent Games Festival's Seamus McNally Grand Prize ever since. And Longbow Digital Arts continues to operate to this day, overseen by the McNally family. I mentioned a whole bunch of things that I'd like you to be able to see and read for yourself, including a web memorial for Seamus McNally hosted at gamedev.net, the letter from John Carmack, and photos of the McNallys. I will be posting all of those in the newsletter and the Patreon. I know that is a bit of a tangent, but it's a story that I don't think is told often enough, and I wanted to share it. It is a new year and you want to eat better, but you still have no time to work with. You have no energy. You have so much going on in your life. Oh, what do? You do Factor. 2 minutes, real food, and you are done. You're not failing at eating healthy. You're failing at having 3 extra hours in every night. You're failing at not being a chef and wanting to do cleanup. Factor takes care of that. It has delicious food that is good for you. You got lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and none of the yucky stuff, no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners. It will offer you whatever you need to match your lifestyle. For me, Mediterranean diet, it really works well. But maybe you need something else, like a high-protein diet or GLP-1 support or ready-to-eat salads. Whatever it is, Factor wants to meet you on your page. Always fresh, never frozen, and like I said, ready in 2 minutes with no prep, no cleanup, just chill. I use Factor. I think that you should too. Head to factormeals.com/postgames, 50 off, and use code postgames50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for a year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscriptions purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. Welcome to Act 2. The latest IGF Grand Prize winner is Consume Me, designed by Jenny Jiao Hsia and AP Thomson, with support from other artists and game makers. So what is Consume Me? Picture WarioWare with a great story. It is about a teenage girl who really just wants to live her life and enjoy the days as they go by, but those days just start filling up with things to do. She's trying to lose weight and manage a diet to appease her mother. She is trying to earn some cash so she can buy a swimsuit because she wants to look good in front of the dudes. She wants to hang out with friends and her little brother. Her life is just busy, and all of that stress piles up and piles up and piles up, and you experience all those little to-dos as, well, frankly, like quite fun mini games. There's a weird dichotomy to it between some really not great feelings and some really joyful game experiences. It's pretty awesome. The pair are currently wrapping up work on the game so that you can actually play it, but they very generously made time to chat. I really enjoyed this interview, and I was struck by how honest Jenny was about the struggle to make a game and how your story, after enough time, can cease to be yours and motivation can just fall away. So, with that, let's throw to it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Jiao Hsia, and I'd like to go by Jenny. I am co-director of Consume Me.
And hello, everyone. My name is AP Thomson. I go by AP, and I am co-director of Consume Me.
Jenny, can you give listeners basically an elevator pitch of what Consume Me is?
Did you feel stupid, fat, and ugly in high school? Well, I did. And I made a video game about it. More specifically, a life sim RPG.
And how long have y'all been working on it?
You're not allowed to ask that question.
Okay. Cool.
No,
cool.
just
so
kidding.
It began as like a series of prototypes, right?
Yes.
Okay. At an undisclosed time and an undisclosed place.
I'll just share. I was joking with you. I started prototyping these mini games and these vignettes back when I was an undergrad at the NYU Game Center, and that was a very long time ago.
So you both have already won an IGF award. You won Best Student IGF back in 2016. You've been working on this project for the better part of 8 years. You submit again to the IGF. Why does this award motivate you so much at such different points in your careers?
I guess for me, it just kind of felt like that was one of the marks of like critical acclaim, or one of the marks of at least like, you know, one of the most formalized processes for receiving the adulation of your peers, right? And I think that's always kind of been one of the main motivating factors for me while making games. And this is something that Jenny and I are very different on, by the way, so I should let her speak about this in a second. But I think I've always been more motivated by people playing and engaging with my work, and I guess appreciating it from an artistic standpoint more so than at least commercial success, I guess is the thing. It's never really been like, if I wanted to make money, I think there are a lot of other jobs I could pursue besides independent game making that would be much more efficient at doing that.
Jenny, this is funny to me. I believe your final acceptance speech for Consume Me was...
I was going to say, does anyone want to buy this for $10 million? You know, talk to me after this.
What is your motivator when you're making something?
I think it's changed. When we got the opportunity to make Consume Me, I was just really happy that like my passion turned into my dream job, you know? But we like officially started working on this project together in 2018 or 2019. So it's been like a long time, like 7 years. I guess I didn't realize how much suffering would be involved in doing that. Like I had no idea that your dream job is also your nightmare job. I actually kind of want to get another shot at doing that in the future. I think in order for me to do that more smoothly, it would have to involve me not having to worry about financial stuff. So that is kind of why I'm like, I want $10 million so I can make my next big dream nightmare project.
No, I get it. I was talking to the creator of Blueprints for an episode that's going to air much, much later about, you know, what's his hope for the future. And he's like, I just want to be able to keep making the game. Like, I want to be able to wake up in a month from now and know that I might have another 7 years that I need to put into a project, and that's okay, and I will be safe. It's telling how universal that feeling is, especially for indie developers like both of you who are working on these projects. They go on so long that you do become aware of the pain. A question for both of you with Consume Me and handing it over to the IGF, because AP, for you, it has been this long motivator, creatively, emotionally. Jenny, I can't even begin to imagine what it feels like handing over a biographical game to a whole bunch of judges, and I know it's biographical, both of you, in some ways. What is that feeling going through you as you're pressing send?
Honestly, you're making it sound way more dramatic than it actually was. Yeah, because, like, I think towards the end of working on this game, the personal attachment, like, died, you know? And I really very much felt like I was just showing up to this job that I had to do. Like, maybe if we, like, finished the game 2 years in, I'd feel a lot of emotions and anxiety. But I think, I don't know, like, yeah, we've been working on this game together for, I guess, 6 years. I think I, like, went through a burnout phase and then had to go through the emotions of denumbing myself. And I think actually, while we were submitting it to the IGF, I just kind of felt very numb. I'm just like, yeah, it would be awesome if we won. I deep down think this game is great the times I do play it, but I don't know, it doesn't mean much to me. Also, my significant other kept on brainwashing me, telling me that it didn't mean anything, and I think he did it intentionally to not get my hopes up. So I was just like, even if this game makes no money, I, like, learned so many valuable life lessons.
One thing I'm just going to add to Jenny's story is that her significant other did, after she won, came back and said, actually, it does mean a lot. I just didn't want you to feel bad if you didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, well, so we're not trying to make him out to be like a terrible bad guy.
Yeah. Thanks for adding that.
After you submit it, it isn't like this cathartic, oh, it's out and now we're ready to go. It's just kind of a bump in the road that is already a very long and bumpy road.
Yep. It's another thing that we needed to check off on our to-do list of finishing the game, you know, and I don't think we really attached much emotion or sentimentality to it besides this external pressure. The game will, like, eventually come out sooner and faster, and I definitely feel that it worked, you know, because we're working a lot harder now.
January comes along, you get the nomination, and a couple months later you win this award. Do either of those points change you emotionally? Do you start to feel more connected with it, Jenny, or just more motivated?
Definitely. I'll be, like, completely honest. I feel like, I mean, maybe AP, like, agrees with me about this, but I think I kind of treated working on the game like this job that I had to show up to, that I didn't want to do anymore. Because, like, working on a video game at the very end, the tasks you do, the sorts of skills and, like, you know, like your hours that you spend during that portion of time, it feels very different from, like, when you're conceptualizing the game and, you know, making prototypes. And I really hated showing up for that. I guess I made my other hobby into my passion, which turns out to be, like, going to open adult ballet classes. And I realized I started devoting way too much time to that hobby, where I've, like, kind of prioritized it over working on this video game. And it's like, oh, because I'm my own boss, I'm kind of, like, allowed to do whatever I want and then suffer the consequences later. But after GDC, I think it took me some time to realize that I turned into someone who, like, didn't want to listen to my gut anymore. I would do things kind of out of guilt because I guess I just, like, saw myself as this lazy person who, like, didn't want to, like, do these very menial tasks. My role on the game started out as, like, wow, like, I'm making so many cool prototypes and there's so much hope for this idea, and then like towards the end I'm like, why can't I freaking get myself to draw like 4 sprites, you know, like I just don't even want to do it. And I feel that is such a cool but painful experience to get to go through as like an indie developer, you know, that persisted throughout the entire GDC trip. I was just like, yep, we're here to show up for work. And this, I don't know, other GDCs that I've been to, it's been more like a mixture of play and relaxation and seeing friends and feeling excited. But I think for this one, it was very much like, no, we're here to do what we have to do. And I didn't really have any other expectations outside of that.
Tell me about that. Both of you have obviously been to GDC and the IGF before. It's a really strange event. It wants to look like a fancy gala, but you are inside of a convention center, and it's just rows and rows and rows of chairs, mostly of people who are exhausted from running between convention things all day. They're finally catching their breath. And then there are these tables where all the like nominees are seated. And you're surrounded by all of your peers, some of the greatest people to be working in the industry. And you're also waiting to find out your fate in a weird way.
I think it's actually a really painful place to be. It's like suffering. I mean, I guess it's fun for the audience, but for the people who are nominated, I just think it's kind of dreadful to be there.
Yeah. Well, how about you, AP?
Yeah.
So I feel like there was a pretty distinct difference between being there for when we won for Be Glitched and being there for Consume Me, because when we were nominated for Be Glitched, we were only nominated for one category, which was student, and we did not expect to win. Like we just straight up did not think we were gonna win. We had like played some of the other student entries like at their booths and stuff, and we're just like, oh yeah, we're not gonna beat this game. We're just like they're gonna announce some other name for Consume Me. So we had like 6 nominations, and we're just like, well, there's a good shot. We get one of those, I guess. Like, don't want to assume anything, but there is like a good chance. If there's a chance we're going up there, we should probably prepare something. And that in itself is stressful, right? I certainly have weird performance anxiety if I know I'm going to need to go up and say something in public, even though I've done it plenty of times. And it's like I've been doing weekly open mics for the past year and a half or so, and it still doesn't get easy. It's still like, oh no, going up in front of like that many people is nerve-wracking. It's really nerve-wracking. And anticipating that is kind of more so with each one. It's like, are we about to be summoned up to do something scary? But also that's the good outcome. That's the good one. So it's kind of, it feels a little bit like, there are two things here that are both very nerve-inducing that could happen. It's like either we don't win any of these awards, and that would be its own thing. That would probably be the funniest outcome, ultimately. Or we win some of these, and then we have to go up there and say something in front of all these people, and that's also extremely scary. So I think that being there for Consume Me was much more stressful in that regard.
Especially
right?
since AP had to like say the really good speech at the end.
Yeah.
I think like he was prepared to say it only if we won Seamus McNally.
Well,
and then
yeah, it was kind of like I'll say it if no one else says it over the course of the night, and there's like still an opportunity. While we're back here, I wanted to take a moment to shout out all of our friends and colleagues who did not feel comfortable coming to this country to attend GDC this year. This includes our trans friends, our immigrant and international friends, our friends who engage in loud and increasingly necessary protest against an ongoing genocide. There are a lot of things we could say about this state of affairs, but I guess I'll just say this. If you are in a leadership position right now, and you are unwilling or unable to stand up to this brutal wave of persecution to at least protect your own people, if you won't throw sand in the gears in any and every way you can, then I think it might be time to step aside for someone who will. Thank you.
I think it is telling, AP, that you said that you had been going to open mics. The difference between you in 2016 and you winning this award is real. And I mean that as a compliment. I see this award increasingly as a coming out party for like game makers. And AP, you had said earlier that, this was a big goal for you. And I'm curious what will come after this. But you look back at who wins this award, and it is an inflection point in their careers. And I thought that speech felt like you two were aware of your moment in a really profound and meaningful way. I want to talk about where things kind of have gone since then and where they go from here. And the biggest thing is, like, what changed? Because, Jenny, you mentioned, before the award, you were doing adult ballet. I know you've gotten really into knitting, and you win this award, and suddenly there's kind of a sprint. What has it been like since the award got handed to y'all?
I think even though it didn't really hit me, like at the moment when we won, I'm like starting to feel all the benefits of just being like, yes, we have like external validation. And now I don't have to be afraid of like talking to PR people and asking them to help me with promoting this game. Because I'm so close to this project, it's kind of hard for me to like be confident about my own work, and I still feel that way at times. But I feel like just having this external force of like everyone recognizes that you made a good thing, even though maybe I don't personally believe that, it's just helpful for the next phase of releasing and marketing the game. Does that sound like really psychopathic? I don't know.
It sounds human. I mean,
okay.
When we talked, you sounded like you were running away from the business of the game, right?
Yeah. Like, I think I was kind of running away from it because it was just so painful to work on the game for so long in that way, But I do feel like invigorated and excited again. And I think there was also like this period of me like not really being super in touch with my emotions and feeling like how I felt was valid. So I'm really asking myself, like, do I need to suffer for this? Because I feel like I think there is a degree of having to suffer for making something like this really long, big project. You have to like delay gratification, but I think I'm realizing that I need to find a balance. Like, if I delay gratification in pursuit of discipline and being hard working, I just lose that sense of being human, So I'm like really glad that it happened at this time, because I feel like it's like the right time to, like feel good and confident.
AP, I'm curious for you, because you said that this is the thing that you've been kind of pursuing, getting this award. And now you are the dog that is caught up with the mailman. How does it feel?
I guess the thing there that's interesting and weird is that because the game is not out yet, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's real yet. In the moment of it, on the night of the awards ceremony, like I talked about all those nerves leading up to it, after everything was over, the primary feeling was relief. Like, phew. And I feel like it didn't even register for me, or maybe even for Jenny as well, that it's like one of the best possible outcomes is what happened. If we should be, like feeling that in a big way. And I mean, at the time, it was mostly just like, okay, we went on stage. I didn't like mess up the thing I was trying to say or like do something incredibly embarrassing or whatever else I was like afraid might happen. And now we can relax.
Just to wrap things up on this and to build off that, most developers who win this award, again, go on to do even bigger things. And it's not guaranteed, but it happens often. I'm curious for y'all, what is the door that you would most like this game to open?
I would definitely like to keep working on the games that I want to work on indefinitely into the future with, I guess, the kinds of team sizes that I'm sort of used to. I think that, like, some developers might say, oh, after experiencing some initial success, now I'd like to really scale up. So, like, this is a nice little stepping stone to building a bigger team or doing something much larger or more ambitious. And I guess that's not really where I'm at. I want to continue making games at the scale that we're making Consume Me at. My main hope here is that I'll continue to be able to do that. which is, it kind of comes down to if
Money.
Consume Me does well commercially. Like, and it doesn't even need to do that well, right? We're not a large team at all.
For my response, I mean, I feel like people can guess it at this point, which is I want Consume Me to be super financially successful so that I can make what I want to make, you know, and that might be like another. Actually, yeah, I do want to make a ballet game. Like I have this in my mind, and I think I do want to maybe have like a slightly bigger team. But I guess I just want the freedom to be able to do that and not have to worry about like financial restrictions. But I also would like to live in a big house and invite all my friends over, which is kind of impossible right now because, you know, I'm living with another creative person, you know, no room and 2 little dogs that make the house very dirty.
I'm guessing from our conversation, shorter development times.
Yes, definitely. I've learned so much, so I want to try it again and not take as long. You know, give me another shot to make a better game in less time. I can do it.
People can do that. They just need to go to Steam. They need to wishlist Consume Me.
Exactly.
Then they need to buy it, and then they need to force all their friends to do the same thing. Thank you again to Jenny and AP. If you'd like to wishlist Consume Me, I've included a link in the Patreon post and in the newsletter. I've also included a link to Jenny's guide to prototyping personal experience, along with her 2017 GDC talk, Put a Face on It, the aesthetics of cute. Up next, the news of the week. Now, the news of the week. In a recent interview, Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, itself the parent company of GTA developer Rockstar Games, said that he doesn't play video games. Which raises a question. Does a CEO of a major video game publisher need to play video games? The answer will surprise you. Because it's no. Like, come on. Of course not. Do you need evidence here? Take-Two is the publisher of Grand Theft Auto, NBA 2K, BioShock, Borderlands, Mafia, XCOM, Civ, Red Dead Redemption, and plenty more. Is it nice that someone like Xbox Gaming's head, Phil Spencer, plays lots of games? Sure. It makes for really good conversation, especially in interviews. But what matters most for a CEO is that they support the people who should and do play games. Their directors, their studio heads, their content officers. I would much prefer a CEO knows how to run a video game business and trust the people who actually make the games than one who has a high gamer score. Anyway, that's just me. Elsewhere, my friends, we are living in an age of miracles. If your definition of miracle, like mine, is an English localization of a beloved Japanese Sega Saturn game. Read Only Memo, one of my favorite newsletters, they covered the brand new localization of Sakura Wars 2. To quote a review from the newsletter, Sakura Wars 2 is a shining light not just of RPGs, but games as a whole. It is a triumphant masterpiece, and every day I try to live my life a little bit more like it. Which, I mean, glowing praise. Also localized, Princess Crown, a beloved Sega Saturn game made by the team that would become Vanillaware, the people who made 13 Sentinels, one of the greatest games of all time. You can find links to both of those projects and some other fan localizations on Patreon and in the newsletter. One last thing! Lost in Cult. It's one of my favorite publishers of video game books. They make stuff you'd be proud to keep on your coffee table, but also interesting enough that you'll actually want to read them, not just show them off. They are getting into the physical games business with special editions of Immortality, a game that, like, I really need to go give another chance. The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow? And thank goodness you're here, one of the most British games of all time. And frankly, I think, like, the funniest game of last year. If you love British games, if you love laughing, if you love the knowledge that a company can't revoke your digital rights or streaming access, if you love holding a video game in your hand, my friends, it's a good day. And that is it for the news this week. We did it. I gotta be real with you. It's a bit of a big one. I don't know if they'll be that meaty every single week, but I'll do my damnedest. If you enjoyed the show, as I've said throughout, this is an entirely independent, Patreon-supported podcast. I don't have ads yet. I certainly don't have any money. So if you want to help me make more of these, you can. Go to patreon.com/postgames. By subscribing, you get episodes early every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. The show normally airs Monday evening, so, that's a good chunk of time. I'm a Mario. You also get so much other stuff. You get the monthly Video Game Journalism 101 courses. You get an extra segment every week. If you're subscribed right now, that means you will be hearing the Mark Feghali interview, one of the winners of the very first IGF Grand Prize. It is such a treat to have you here. I'm still kind of like processing the past month. And thank you. For real, thank you. Subscribe at post.games to get the newsletter. Patreon.com/postgames. My name is Chris Plant. I'll see you next week.